to wait for 10 seconds for them to hear it. Okay, 9, 10, 5, 3, 2, 1. You are at least 4 times louder than Marco. That's crazy.
So I think I need to lower my volume a bit.
Okay. Okay, if they can hear me well, then...
Okay, how's this, guys?
Okay, so now we have to wait again.
Yeah, but they'll hear me say that 10 seconds later.
Of course. You don't have to repeat it every time. Okay.
I'm used to time traveling.
So we are live. Welcome everyone. As you can see, we have like a pretty beautiful slideshow going on here, and it's to announce the following IFCC event in the beautiful city of Split at the beautiful Adriatic coast during the beautiful summer, and no sharks, no crocodiles, no piranhas, no poisonous animals. Okay, only some snakes, but you don't have to worry about those too much. Although I have to warn people about something. So like every year there's like a mountain behind the city of Split, you know, and every year like this rescue team, you know, who saves people who go to mountains in their like flip-flops, has to save like a lot of tourists, you know, and for some reason, I don't know why, probably the mountain looks like really small, you know, but they usually get lost there, so don't go to the mountain, stick to the seaside. So what else to say? There'll be like 25 instructors, 3D stuff, 2D stuff. We'll try to interview most of them in sessions similar to this one, so you'll get a chance to meet them even before the event. So 6 days. Those who have been at the event so far, they know that the program is mostly made of live talks and presentations, but this time it will be slightly different. So it will be more like demos / workshops / talks. So we have to change. So that's what we are doing. And there aren't as many seats available as there were in the past because the venue itself is a bit smaller. But what the good thing is that it's happening in the center of the city, and a lot of cafe bars, which you all loved in Zagreb. There'll be a lot of those here as well. And what to say else? Yeah, if someone wants to get a ticket during this stream, he or she can get it at a lower price, and all they have to do is send an email to. I will type down our email address, and by saying this, we are ending the promotional part of this live session and moving on to Gaea. So Dax, while I'm typing my email address, our email address, you can introduce yourself and the software.
Alright, so hello everyone, my name is Dax Pandhi, and I'm the co-founder of QuadSpinner. We have been doing environment-related stuff for a long time. We've had a couple of different software. We've had a plugin suite for Word Machine called Geoglyph that's been used in lots of different AAA titles. One of the bigger ones being Doom, and we also did some stuff for Swisscom, where we recreated the entire Swiss Alps in 3 days. So we're basically trying to compete with God in a way, still failing. And so now we have a new software called Gaea, where we basically were frustrated by how terrain design was almost 10 years behind compared to how other aspects of CG were going forward. And so we thought, okay, we need to create something, and we originally were creating an internal tool. Then we started using it on different productions, and it just made sense to make it into a full blown application for everyone. And that brings us a few years later to now. So we're going to get to see Gaia, and we'll do some, you know, fun little things and see how it works.
So, okay, so I know because I recognize some of the names here. We have a lot of. Okay, someone is making evilish jokes live from the bathroom. Yes, that's our signature. So, and I must say, like, IMCC is well known for the lowest quality of technical support of all the live events and on-site events and online events. So, yeah, that's true.
By the way,
We're
I'm
not.
not in the bathroom. Should I relocate?
No. It's just because of the voice, you know. Like I mean, some of the guys here they're like really working in some high-end speak studios, you know, like Blizzard and stuff. So they're used to like everything to be high quality, you know. But these guys from India and I'm from Croatia, maybe the most corrupt country in Europe. So, anyways, so
If they think the audio quality is bad, they
yeah,
haven't even heard the jokes
there's
yet.
there's still the reverb for some reason. You don't have like additional speakers or something like that.
No, I'm on my headset.
Yeah, still reverb. And what about you? You have a lower down the desktop audio thing, right?
When I did that, people were saying they couldn't hear you, so I had to bring that up.
Not sure how to fix this, but yeah. Well, let's continue, and if it will be like too bad, like I mean, we won't be done in like 10 seconds here, so uh, I guess we'll have a reverb session for now, and later on we'll try to fix it.
I'm also recording locally, so we'll have a better copy for later viewing, maybe.
Oh, of course, yeah. Okay, so let me continue because I know that some guys here are like mostly into like concept art and maybe you know like not so much into 3D landscape type of creations, and this software is mostly based on nodes, like which is like very common in last a few years. Like nodes are all over the place. We have them like from the Unreal Engine, I don't know, Substance Designer, even Blender, and if someone here uses Houdini, but they're all used for different purposes, and in this case we're using it for creating terrains, and some other softwares are also using it, of course, but so you know, just have this in mind, because I know that there are still some folks who never worked with nodes, you know.
Well, for those people, Gaia does have an additional mode that's like a layer system, kind of like Photoshop. So I'm just gonna start and just show. So when you start, and you get a bunch of different options on how you want to begin. So there's sculpting, which we'll see in a bit, but you can create your terrain as a graph or layers. And with the layers, of course, the complexity can get limited, but there's still plenty you can do. So if nodes are not your thing, and especially for concept artists who want to be, just want to get that quick base shape that they will then work over later, then terrains would be, layers would be a great way for them. So I'll just start, I guess.
So I'll be quiet because I'm the one who is having the reverb effect problem, and I'll just interrupt if you don't have anything to say. So say a lot.
Okay. Well, so I just started this in layer mode, and this is what I get. This is just a default random terrain. So if I'm just going to change the lighting a bit. And so if if you just want a quick mountain to place somewhere, then this is really all you need. You're done. And you can add more nodes to change things however you like. So we want more cracks, then there we go. And so you can keep working in the layer system, which would be a lot more comfortable for many people. And of course, if I'll just go back to the nodes mode, because that's where we get to do some really cool stuff. And so this is the bigger, the fuller interface. And if you have not used nodes before, it's really nothing to be that intimidated by. So just find stuff here, put them here. And if you don't, like, I've heard so many people complain, like, I hate those tiny little ports, we don't want to connect things, it takes too much time. Well, so if you were to create this thing, you can just drop a node on another node and it'll connect things for you. So I'll just go displace, drop it on mountain, and then I'll find erosion, drop that on displace. They're connected for you, so not too much work. So, and that's it, and that concludes our session for Gaia. Thank you all for joining.
Okay, we'll pretend that there's much more to this software. Can you explain the groups on the left, green, white, blue, and yellow?
Sure. So, like in a normal CG, everything will begin with some sort of primitive most of the time. So you'll have a square or a cube or sphere or something. So in the same way, in terrain design, you would have noises, kind of like how you would build shaders as well. So you could have Perlin noise, Voronoi, and things like that. So we went a bit further than that, and we now have primitives. So the mountain here, I'm going to get rid of all the extra stuff. And so the mountain here, that's a primitive. So instead of, learning shapes in noises and then trying to transform them into something, you can just have things like a mountain, or if you want dunes, then this will create dunes for you that you can just have a great look on the ground. So that will hopefully make things a bit easier. And then when you have your base shape, then you can start modifying it. So like in Photoshop, we would have, different filters like blur and invert and all that stuff. So those are little adjustments here. And the filters are different things here. For example, there's, let's see, there's cells. If I drop it on the mountain, it turns it like this, which weirdly you can find in nature, like in Ireland and in other places. And then finally we have the big erosion group here. This is where you can take your shape and make it very, very realistic. So if I just put this aside, if we take this mountain, which is okay, but it's not really a real mountain shape. So I'll just connect this, and you can see it starts making it look more like a real mountain. I'll actually get rid of these extra things and just increase the resolution a bit. So right now our preview resolution is 512 by 512. I'm going to go to 1K to get more detail. And so that's what erosion does, and it is the most important part of terrain design. And then coloring is another big part, and so the rest are color things, and we can get into that a bit later once you're more familiar with the interface. But it's erosion really is the heart of the software, and
this is what gives the reality, the realism.
Exactly.
Not the reality. Okay.
And another problem when you're new to designing terrains is like, how do you actually control the erosion? And so, because in most solutions there's just one big erosion thing and you have to learn all the settings, which is Not too different here because there are many different settings to learn. But if you just want like one small piece of it, like let's say you want cracks, then we have separate nodes for that. So you can just go breaker. And if I add that on top of this, like I did before, it just does cracks. If you want lots of sand or other sedimentation, you just add sediments, and it starts covering it up with lots of material, like this. And so that way, it's one of the important things is like almost every artist knows that you're almost done. Then the your art director or creative director or someone will come in and go, yeah, this is great, but I just want to change that one thing. And then in procedural design, that one thing means it's another month of work. And so we're trying to break this down into smaller pieces so that it's maybe half an hour's work and not a month's work.
Of course. I have like question.
Sure.
So
please feel free
kind
to
of
stop me from talking because I have this bad habit of
please
just
stop,
talking.
because I have the same bad habit.
Uh-oh.
Almost say addiction, because it is kind of addiction. So what if you have to like do some kind of a series of mountains one after another, or maybe canyons? Like, for example, does this software allow us to paint height map, or do you do it like more kind of procedurally, like you did these things? Can you be like very precise with the map?
Sure.
Mountains, so
Sure.
I don't know how to express myself.
So there are a few different ways to do it. So terrain sculpting is still in development and will be out maybe later this summer. But right now we have a semi-procedural way to do it. So I'm just going to create a mask node and yay! Our first crash.
You just what I usually say when this happens, that it's on purpose or something like that.
Well, the one good thing is like every software crashes, but we have a nice recovery system where you can see it crashed, but we can still continue working. So I'm just gonna draw a bunch of really weird shapes, and
there was a question about maybe a tutorial series or something like that. Everything that covers everything from zero to Himalaya mountains. So I did offer Dax to do it at the IFCC Academy website, but
I need to sleep first.
Yeah. So this might happen sometimes in the future.
We'll do lots of little basic tutorials. Like we just released one yesterday on our YouTube, which is like a 6-minute introduction. Exactly. So tomorrow there'll be another one, a 6-minute introduction to coloring, and so we'll do some of those little ones, and then we'll have maybe 20 plus tutorials on our main documentation next month. And we'll keep making more video, especially for the IFCC Academy.
Yeah, well, I usually, I know the crowd that visits us, for them it's, for example, it's much easier to learn if you do something like really specific, let's say Dolomiti in Italy or something like that, and then, because then they actually have something to focus on, like, okay, I'm doing this from the zero. So but yeah, I can only imagine how much work you guys have like developing software. It's really a hard job, and I guess if you say that those tutorials would be ready like until summer, I guess we'll wait. In reality, we'll wait for another year at least.
Well, actually, we've been kind of like we've been doing a lot of learning material like side by side with development. So a lot of it is, nearly done. So we're just gonna release like little by little rather than making people wait for everything to come in.
Of course. Okay, please continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No, sure. So I just drew a basic like little mask that's weird little shapes, But then we have this node called apex. So when you connect that to any outline shape, it makes it like this. And right now it may not look like much, but the key behind terrain design is you kind of bulk up and then erode it away, because that's kind of what happens in real life too. So when a big mountain gets eroded, it becomes less. So this is a slightly strange shape, so I'm going to clamp it and bring it down. So that's a bit more mountain-like, like how a little child would draw it. And I'm going to fatten it up using aperture, which is just going to expand the shape. So let's see. That's good enough. And again, this seems like a weird shape, but it will instantly turn into a realistic mountain as soon as we erode it. And because we don't have a ground, I'm going to create a little Perlin node, which is like the most common noise we have everywhere. And I'm just going to make it smaller. And then I'm going to combine these two. And so there's a node for it called the combine node, which you can drop, then connect one to this, and then one to the other input, and it combines it. And here you can change the ratio of the blending. So here I just want like a little bit, so we have a ground and not something flat like this. And so as soon as we have this, this is in a way ready for erosion. So I'll just take the erosion node, drop it here. It's now starting to erode a little bit, but we want it to erode a lot. So I'm going to increase the strength and duration, and the down cutting, which is when all the water flows start making rivers. And I'll hit apply. And you can see that's now it's turning into a more realistic landscape. And that was me just drawing a few blobs. So if you have a precise shape, which you can bring in from many different places, or if you have real world data which you can bring in through the file node, then you can erode that as well.
That's amazing. If I knew this process, I knew about other software, but I was kind of too afraid to use them because the concept was kind of strange to me. And I already know I was working on a game. I was hired to work on a game which is like a strategic Second World War game, and I know we did a lot of sculpting for the mountains, and stuff in ZBrush, and then combining it in Photoshop, and it would be so much easier if we would have done it like this.
Yeah, I mean, sculpting is great, but it's mainly when you need to go back and change something that it adds so much work. Because in CG, everything needs iterations.
Yeah, definitely.
No. And so with this, let's say I'm going to try something else. I'm going to make these a bit lower. Oh, no, wait, that's the wrong thing. These, I'm going to go make them lower. And it just... There, this is a bit more realistic. And I'm going to switch to the first person mode and climb out of the terrain. Let's go down here. And so with this, especially if you're working on a game, this is a great way to explore your terrain while you're working on it. And we have a basic atmosphere and things like that, so you can, the sun, you can get like sunsets and things.
This is really, really interesting.
And also, if I switch out, we also have a water surface, so you can turn it on. And so this is the world right now. This is 10 years after the ice caps melt. So again, it's not like the most sophisticated water, but it's enough to help you, especially if you're doing coastal things. This is a great way to measure it.
To help you decide to change the location.
Yeah. So, and like a magician, I can offer to do any terrains people want. So, pick a terrain. Any terrain.
So, let me tell you something. Let me ask you something more practical.
Okay.
Uh, I assume, and those who are listening should know that we didn't, talk about this before. So, actually, me and Dax are talking for the first time with our voices, now.
Yeah.
So we didn't have time to discuss much of what we will be talking here. But so I'm just thinking about situation that people might want to use the software. So what about will there be any kind of bridges for uh, or any kind of connections with the game software like Unreal and Unity, or how does this work?
Yes, so right now you can export in file formats that are acceptable to almost every software, like EXR or just a OBJ mesh. But we're working on bridges for almost all popular softwares, like whether it's 3D Max or Maya, or on the other end, with the game engines like Unreal and Unity. So you'll be able to kind of work and then have a seamless update. But that's probably going to be a few months from now.
hmm And what about like a specific format? I know this is maybe even a dumb question, but I know that like I think Substance they have like their own file format which those engines read. Is this something too advanced for now? Is this even something needed in your case, or?
Well, it is something we considered, but at the moment, there's no specific need for a file format because, in the end, these terrains are just height fields. So they're just basically either, like a 16-bit PNG file or a 32-bit EXR file. So almost everything will just accept it. Like, for example, if you want to take this into 3D Max or Maya, you just make a flat plane and apply a displace on it using this map.
I assume that like horizontal cavities are not possible, or, like caves and that kind of thing. If we're like, if this is mostly based on height maps, black and white images, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So this is not something that you plan to implement, or it's not. I mean, you can't look at the cave as a terrain, right?
Well, one of the things we have in R&D is actual 3D erosion, where it works on literally in all directions and not just top down. But the reason it's not really implemented, we have technology for it. We have vector displacement, and we have, of course, now game engines can take millions and millions of polygons and just laugh at it. But the problem is those terrains aren't that practical, and that's why even now, what we see in games will be you have a base terrain, and then wherever there's a cliff, they will just put lots of different assets. But those different assets that cover up that cliff are often like maybe 2 or 3 assets that they can reuse. Now, if we put all that data in a single height field, it would, it wouldn't even be triple. It would be raised to 3. So it would be a giant memory hog. So I think we're still a few years away from practically implementing that for everyone.
Okay. There are some questions here. First is by a guy who really uses terrains a lot. His name here in the chat is Damer G. Martin. He does really amazing
Yeah.
paleo art visuals. So you can look for him at ArtStation, like really amazing
I've
stuff.
seen his work. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah. He's also from Croatia, but another town. So he asked, like, I got an idea for terrain. Can this software generate tidal sand ripples?
Yes, in a way, yes. It wouldn't have the physics of it, but it wouldn't be too difficult to generate ripples. And you can also have weird shapes. So I can show you a quick example of it.
So he added like low tide sand ripples and washed away sand small. So this is basically I mean, I guess that's something to do with erosion as well in your software. Like you could use it for this, or?
Well, I think mainly though our stuff is geared towards very large environments, and this would be something that would be more restricted to smaller environments. But there are some ways to do it. It's not really easy, but can be done. Uh, I'm trying to think if because we have directed erosion, which we'll see in a moment, where you can paint things, and that can create more fine-tuned stuff where you have control over like the sand flowing in a specific direction.
Well, I guess since you're using nodes in Gaia, I guess that you're not locked to, just realistic terrains. So because these are not the presets, you can do like a lot of different things with nodes, even stuff
Yes.
that doesn't look like terrain, like a realistic terrain, right? So it can be something really abstract.
Yes. So yeah, exactly. Like with Substance, where in Substance Designer, it's like, uh, it's basically how weird your mind can get, and you start going in and doing all these things, and first people were creating these rock textures and everything, and then suddenly now we're seeing people create these fantastic interior decorations and everything in Substance. So it's mind blowing how people can take like a few limited nodes and then turn it into something fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen a guy a few days ago did like a he would all like he only had like one plane, I think, like one polygon, and then he have replicated some old radio design from 80s, with all like everything, from the logo to like equalizers, whatever,
Wow.
It's so weird, like no geometry, and like only this kind of height details and stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, what do we have here?
I see a question here. It's like mesh reduction, like polygon reduction when exporting, and that's actually already in there. So we have a mesher node which creates meshes, and you can just choose your vertex count, and you can also have different LODs exported at the same time.
Level of details for those who are not into terminology, LOD.
So that's already there. And then I don't see any other question. My second screen is too small.
I'm so sorry. I was checking. You're boring. I'm checking my mobile. Sorry. Blah blah blah. It's freaking awesome. It's crazy. This is crazy. Desert dunes. Someone mentioned cliffs, and I'm trying to find like we see a lot of mountain, but does it manage cliff coast?
Oh, I think I might have an example of that. Let me see if I can open this. These are just a few files I've created over the last few months.
So you're looking for the coast with cliffs, right?
Yes, I
Something
should
similar
have
to that.
something.
Okay, while you're searching for it, I'm going through comments. Blah blah blah. Can you import height maps made in another program? I guess you can, right?
Yes,
Like
you can.
images. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then don't forget Blender. I know that Blender, there's always a problem with implementing stuff into Blender, and this has to do something with licensing, right?
Oh,
Or am I wrong?
I have no idea. I haven't had a chance to use Blender in a while, but I mean, if possible, we'd love to do it, and maybe even make it like an open source community thing where others can contribute as well.
Yeah, we like free stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Tony Bratincevic here, who is also amazing 3D artist, and I know that he already has tried your software.
Oh, okay.
So he says, is there any plan to do meshes decimation? You did mention this like a few seconds
Oh
ago.
yeah, I just read his question. That was the only question
okay,
I
sorry,
read.
sorry. Yeah, okay, sorry.
There, I found a cliff. It's not the best cliff, but this was something I was working on a while ago, and that's why I just remembered. So you can do some pretty nice cliffs. I mean, we're still limited by displacement, but that doesn't mean that we can't have nice, like slightly less than 100% steep slopes. And,
Okay, so can you explain a few different types of erosion you might not find in World Creator?
Ooh.
Are there differences?
I actually haven't used World Creator since the first version. I tried it a bit, but then I've just been in development for this and really haven't had a chance to try it. But I can explain the type of erosions we do have. So we have, as you can see, we have lots of different kinds. So we've been mainly seeing the normal fluvial erosion, and then breaker, which does cracks. But there's another one called alluvium, which basically deposits a lot of sand everywhere. So in this, it just did a small pass where it adds things to the crevices, but then you can increase the iterations and the sediment amount, and it'll do a lot.
Someone asks also, is it possible to do like waves, oceans, and stuff? I guess it is, right?
Um, not oceans, but waves maybe.
I mean, those are like usual noises.
Yeah,
I call them noises. All of those effects.
but
Quite.
one of the cool thing is there's that the I forget what the name of the plugin is. It's the Houdini Ocean plugin that you can find for everything now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a Houdini Ocean plugin for Max and Maya and everything. And if you take it and you turn it into a solid object, it makes really good dunes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's like on our website, when you go to the front page, there's a surreal image of a shark swimming in a cube of water.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
The dunes are made from a Houdini Ocean.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I was looking for a way to do like some. I even managed to do some type of dunes and all the forms that sand makes. I tried using like Voronoi noise in combination with something in Blender. I don't remember what, but it did give like a pretty nice results. Of course, if you pump up the geometry of the plane to get more details.
yeah, that's
Because it generates those sharp edges, then you need a lot a lot of polygons there. But then I do like some kind of a remesh,
yeah.
so it follows those lines, and then how do you say
Something like
this?
this, but not horrible.
No, this is really nice.
And I'm trying. Okay, so the one erosion that we saw. Okay, so this is alluvium. I added a lot of accumulation, so it takes this and turns that into this. Then we have a fold, which is something you don't want to use late in the game. You want to use it early. So I'll just create a new file, and okay, so I'm gonna remove everything else and just auto level this so it's tall and we can see. Where did it go? There's the fold. So the terrain folding is something that does happen in real life in many places, and especially on the coastal areas. And so with this, you can let's see, just gonna change the base shape to something that's bulky, and there. So like this, where you have terrains that are crushing into each other and get folded. So that's another type of erosion that I'm not sure if other applications have this.
They will after they see this stream.
Oh, there's also the cheating device. The node, this it's called landform. It's like when you don't really want to do much. Like I'm just gonna like on this the mountain. If I just throw landform, it applies a few different things and starts turning it into a slightly realistic mountain without using too much erosion. It was terribly tall, so there, like this.
I see additional question by Tony, and of course, since yeah, I'm focused. Don't get me wrong, I'm focused on this stream, but I have to do other things simultaneously. So I don't know if you have already answered it, but he says like, when exporting terrains, would it be possible during export process to select nodes to randomize seeds and export multiple variations of terrains? This sounds pretty advanced.
And it's already done. It's in internal beta right now and should be out in March. So you can kind of like with SpeedTree, where when you're exporting, you can just say, "Give me 5 of these," and it'll create 5 different terrains that are similar to that.
Similar, that's great. Sounds great.
So, and you can also do that while you're working. So there's a mutate button down here, and so you mutate, it just randomizes all the seeds.
I know I've read. I haven't asked you, but you've been like pretty active member of the software called Vue community.
Yes.
Is it the right pronunciation? Vue?
Yes.
What happened to that software? Is it still?
It's still
does it
around.
still exist? Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. Because I've seen a lot of marketing, like 5 or 10 years ago, but not recently so much. So, not sure what's happening there.
They became super famous when ILM used it on Pirates of the Caribbean. And then the software grew, and a couple of years ago it was taken over by Bentley Systems. They create CAD software, and so yeah, the new versions are coming out. But I kind of left a Vue a few years ago because I was kind of like reaching a natural limit on what you can do in an external environment only software, and then my clients were asking for things that would need to be taken into 3D Max and whatever. So I just started adapting my workflow to Max and Corona and Forestback.
How do you do your research for terrains? Are you only focused on what you can find in other software or on the internet? Do you actually go to some locations, if they have like some specific things going on with the terrain? Do you go and to check how this works live?
Oh
in
yes.
natural environment? You do.
Yeah, so we started like kind of our background research on terrains. Like even back before we had the idea for Gaia, we knew we wanted to study terrains. And so my partner Cynthia and we started Quad Spinner in Costa Rica while looking at a big giant volcano and thinking, "Ooh, that's cool. We should make it in CG." And so we had a first expedition in Costa Rica. We spent a couple of months just going to all sorts of places and learning about terrains. Then we did other expeditions. We did one in Europe. We did another one or we did actually 2 of them in the U.S., where we stayed in the desert, like proper old school adventuring, where we didn't have GPS. We had a truck and we had a map. We didn't have reservations. Every day we would go somewhere, find stuff, and then try to find a place to sleep and eat. And we did that for a whole month. And so Gaia has a lot of research coming in from all of that we learned what's going on in the real world, then started turning it into algorithms. And one of the biggest things that we got last year, which was somewhat late in the development, was Daniel Campero. He joined us, and it was he created the erosion system for TerraGen called Classic Erosion. And we really liked this work and invited him to join us, and now he's doing a bunch of different really cool R&D stuff right now, and we're improving erosion. We're doing lots of different things.
So I have like question. You can call it a request of my own. Will there be possible in the future maybe to import meshes like placeholders, for example, for some architecture? If I just want to check inside the Gaia, how would like a castle be placed or something like that? Do you have any plans like that?
Like for visual only, where it would just be...
Yeah, just so before I export the final terrain, I would like to to check the proportions, maybe, and that kind of stuff.
I think that should be very easily possible. Funny, nobody has requested that yet, so.
Maybe it's not in a big demand.
But
So
we kind of have a model import coming in probably next month where you can import a geometry, adjust it right there in the viewport, and then when you say done, it'll make it into a height map.
okay.
But
So this means that you could like import already some shapes that doesn't have like erosion details and stuff, and then you can apply it inside
exactly.
Gaia. Uh,
So, because some people are very comfortable in ZBrush, or maybe you have something ready elsewhere, and so you can take even a low polygon model, bring it in, and then turn it into a proper terrain.
Someone here mentioned if the vector displacement is on the roadmap, so I can answer this. We have talked about it today already, and maybe sometimes in the future when well
When we have RTX Generation 8.
Okay, so there are a few other questions. You can, I will interrupt you so you can continue talking or whatever.
Oh, it's okay. If you have questions, I can...
Okay, about the best way to make noticeable. I'd also be curious about the best way to make noticeable hero rivers and lakes with appropriate dynamics right near the edge. I guess that the Walker Zavary is the name of the author of this comment. I guess he's talking about the water bounces and that kind of stuff that's happening near the edges of the.
Oh, we have a giant new river and lake system coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So that will I think that'll do everything that you need it to do.
It's funny because we have discussed something very similar during our last session with Stephen Corman, who also has a course on the IFCC Academy website.
Mm-hmm.
And so we also like what would be the best way to solve that scenario where water touches the coast, and you have like these waves bouncing back and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that's interesting topic. So I can't find Roger Arbello says I can't find the node for importing height maps.
Oh, so that's the file node. You can drag and drop the file node, or actually you can drag and drop a file directly onto the graph and it'll turn it into a file node.
Okay, like drag and drop.
Yes.
Okay. Is the terrain mesh exported in triangular or quad polygons?
Right now, triangles only. Probably in a couple of weeks, quads as well.
Okay. So, and if someone really needs quads, I guess you could do like you have the height map, so I guess you could like do fast remesh in some software.
There's also the free mesh labs, so you can just take it in. There's a quadifier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dax, Tony asks additional question. Dax, when you are hovering with your mouse over nodes on the left, is it possible to have some small example image of what the node is doing?
Yes, that is definitely planned, along with a little bit of like a small paragraph telling you what the node does. As we finish the documentation, we'll start pulling that into the actual software. And you will also get like in the settings, you can also right click and ask for help and it'll show it to you right there.
So, quick question. I have a lot of CDs, Koch, with DEM files from Vista Pro, etc. Is it possible to import those?
First, he should get a medal for still having CDs and a CD reader. And second, yes, that's going to be there soon. It's a highly requested feature, so yeah.
So a lot of other people with CDs and DEM files. Is this the replacement for World Machine and Geoglyph, or this will complement that workflow?
So if you want to create a terrain from beginning to the end, you can do all of that in Gaia, and everything that was in Geoglyph that wasn't world machine specific is already in here. Like some of the filters here, like swirl and origami, they were in geoglyph, and so they're here. They're in fact a little bit improved. Uh, but some people also, if you have a lot of investment in world machine, you can use both of them. You just bake it to a file, take it from one to the other, and move about a bit. And of course, if you just want to use Gaia, then it can do almost everything you need it to.
Does it support UDIM tiles? I guess
Not yet.
not yet.
So right now, the UVW map, the UV map you get is basically the same you would get for a flat planar map.
Any plan about save/load subgraph?
Yes, we have that similar to macros in World Machine, but also you will have bake to script. So if you want to protect your macro, you can just bake it to a script, and it's even more efficient than a graph sometimes. You'll also have a new thing that I'm not sure if other graph-based applications have, but it's this new thing we're working on called the Infinity Graph, where you can have live graphs and share them and weird, complicated things that I can't explain without 20 PowerPoint slides. But that will
Okay.
be available later in the year.
So, like, what was your idea? What was your goal to make a software which will be perfect for films or for games or for like architectural visualization, or you just plan to cover all of it?
Kind of all of it. Our main focus was games because that's where terrains are used the most. In films, like there are some situations, but not too many that let you have 3D terrains, because otherwise things usually just get matte painted. But if anyone wants to use this in VFX, and some people are using it already, this has very high resolution capabilities for that.
Hmm. I also wanted to ask additional question, but my wife just called me. And I started typing message, so I'll see if someone else has a question. What is the best way to transfer your bi- biomesh into black and white masks?
So these would be biomes, and there is no inbuilt way to do that, but we will have that soon. So I'm speaking of biomes. I'll load another example. So this is
So,
like a yes.
what is biome? I don't know what biome is,
So
so.
biome is like a whole ecosystem. So instead of having to create color maps for, the like the snowy parts and the forest and the swamp and everything, you create one node that will take water information and then create maps for everything. I can show you that right now. So I'm going to, I think I already have, I'll create some flow data, which basically calculates the water flowing. And so that's the water flow.
So I've seen this like it's a different color now. So there are some kind of RGB nodes as well here, right?
Yes. So
Mhm.
this is a mask node, so it'll be black and white. And then we get to connect a mask node to a RGB node.
Mhm.
And biome is one of those RGB nodes. So I'm just gonna create a biome node. I'll give it the actual terrain or the erosion nodes output and the water information. This is not perfect, but you can see it's creating all different kinds of color information. And you can choose to have, just green, or you can allow highlands. And then the other great thing is this is kind of like a super splat map. So the each of the pixels, they're not anti-alias, so they have whole information. So you could turn it into a splat map and have different, like megascans textures or something for each of the different colors.
What are the limits of the resolution here? So, for example, like this looks like really well detailed from this distance.
Right.
How do you solve the situation when someone needs like maybe 1/10 of this terrain? To zoom the camera in and to to do like additional visualization for whatever reason.
Right. So for more detail, basically you just increase the resolution. So right now we are seeing this at 512 by 512, but you can bake it in the final build. You can go in the current version. You can go up to 8K, very stable. 16K is a bit experimental, and 32K is coming soon.
But can you, for example, is it possible or will it be possible to like in the viewport to just crop a part of this I don't know how to call it, this terrain.
The terrain, yeah. So just like if we just want this area, then
I just want to crop it, and then I want to increase the resolution on that part.
Right. That specific feature is not available yet. We have a big engine upgrade planned in maybe 6-8 months. That's when that'll come in.
Okay.
But right now you do get a transform node where you can scale it up. That can work in some situations.
So does this transform node also include like moving the terrain, like I don't know how to explain this.
Yeah, it's like it's your typical transformation. You get like you can move it, you can rotate it, you can scale it. So
translating. Okay. So let's see the questions. What's the best way to any plan to real-time small resolution preview as you are tweaking some sliders?
Not at the moment, but we have something else in mind for that, so you can get fast previews. So you're gonna get that soon.
So another question stands from Joshua Simonson. So would RAM or GPUs or CPUs or all three be better for making Gaea run faster?
So Gaea right now is CPU only. So RAM and CPU are Gaea's best friend. Right now the GPU is mainly used for the viewport just to visualize it, so really not that much. But over time we're going to take several things and port them to the GPU. One of the if you look at the erosion here, one of the reasons that we get these really nice long lines is because we are not trying to force parallel processing at the level of like CUDA cores where it's like 2000 cores working together. And so there is a bonus for waiting a little bit. You can get shapes that are still not possible with GPU.
Okay, I'm total noob in this technical side of things that you're explaining. I know what CUDA cores is because it was requested thing for us to use Octane render since we started a long time ago. It was like 0.5 beta or whatever. That's why I bought the graphic card with CUDA cores, but not sure that I understand what you're explaining now.
Well, basically, without being technical at all, it's like when you have like tons of cores, whether it's CUDA or you have like a Threadripper or something, like one thing will work on something here, another will work on something here, and they are all independent. They don't know what its neighbors are doing. With our stuff, it's like they will kind of work independently, but then every once in a while they'll stop and they'll talk to each other. Like, hey, I moved this rock over there. And so we get to create better shapes because of that. And eventually it will be possible on the GPU. It's just right now we can give better quality being on the CPU.
Oh yeah, now I understand. Okay, so let's see. Is it possible to have a quick sneak peek of a the rhymes? Devil is in the rhyme. Quick workflow of biomass, how to clamp snow level, etc.
Okay, now say that 10 times.
I can't. It's the last comment here, so look it for yourself.
So, okay, I think biome might be too complex because there's a I'm actually working on a proper 1 hour tutorial just on biomes. So I think it would be better to wait for that. Right now, it's like, you get this, and yeah, it looks great, but then you want to control it. It feels a bit complex, but it requires a lot of work here and not here. And so for that, it's going to be something where it's a bit complex to understand. So what we're doing is we're creating both like a text tutorial and a video tutorial to go with it, so that you can really try a few things and then get a solid understanding of it.
Okay. Now let's talk about price.
Oh yeah,
So and then we'll move back to Gaia
sure.
interface. But I think this is like really also important topic to discuss, especially for those who are like freelancers and so on. So, what are the pricing models? What do they include? No subscription, with subscription, and so on. Can you just share a few words on this as well?
Now I'm wishing I had prepared like that Doctor Evil gift, just going like $1 million. But no, it's not that expensive. The it starts with the community edition, which is free, but it's limited to just 1K resolution. So it's great if you just want to try it out and learn. We also have no restrictions on like where you can use it commercially or not. Just do whatever you want with it. We're happy to have you use it however you like. The next is the indie edition, which is limited to 4K resolution for the output, and it's $99. The pro version is unlimited and allows unlimited tile creation soon, and that is $199. And then you have the enterprise edition, which has more advanced things that are, if you're a superpower user, like you need advanced scripting, you want to create your own plugins, you want to work with like complex like cloud solutions for distributed rendering, all sorts of complicated things. So then you can get the enterprise edition, which is $299.
Mm-hmm. And do you plan in the future any additional discounts or whatever support for like non-profits, educational,
Absolutely.
and that kind of
So we're going to have discounts for educational use. We're going to have discounts for obviously volume purchases and all that. And if someone's doing something non-profit and it's really interesting, then just get in touch. We'll be happy to help you out.
We're doing non-profits. We'll get in touch. Okay, so
well, except you.
We'll discuss this later.
The other thing is one of the things that's really important to us is like, it's like people. It's silly how sometimes licensing becomes so. I don't want to say greedy, but it's become so tangled up, and it's like you can do this, you can't do that. We were very clear from the start that we just want to create like a licensing system that's like old school stuff, like shareware. You pay, it's there. We're not gonna bother you again.
Well, to be honest, like it's I remember when now like all the software now have this kind of subscription thing going on, and I remember back in the days when like software was like really expensive.
Yeah.
People were kind of hoping for this subscription model, but now since there are so many more softwares available and you want to include all of them in your pipeline, then you become like subscribed to like dozens of softwares, and then it becomes a problem. So, but then again, I guess that, of course, like everyone who is doing some kind of job, and this includes the software companies, they still need the good funding for the future development. So it's hard to draw like a straight line, between like good and bad business people, who just want your money. So I guess I mean, if you're making money with the software, it does make sense to pay like whatever it costs.
Sure.
So
It's like some of the licensing things that I don't understand are like location based licensing. Like for
mm,
freelancers, if someone moves a country, let them move a country. You don't need to buy a new license.
yeah, yeah.
So we kind of like we're not doing any of that. And the other thing is like we really like open source stuff. So we're gonna do a lot of open source things around Gaia as well. So so people can extend it and do all sorts of things. And you
Cool.
mentioned Vue like a couple of months ago. It was like our well, no, more than a few months ago. It was our 10-year anniversary for Quad Spinner, and so to celebrate that, we like took all the stock models and products that we had created for the Vue platform, and we open sourced all of it on GitHub. So it's available for free for anyone who wants to use it, like commercially or however you want. You can even build something new with it and sell it. We don't mind.
Mhm. Okay, you said it live. No turning back from this point.
No, we're happy to have people use it.
Okay, one other thing that might be interesting for those who already have decided to go the Gaia way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you plan to have some community website, or will this be based on your like maybe Facebook group or page, or what's the plan for that? Like where can you get in touch with other Gaia terrain designers? Uh,
So we have a Facebook group for those who prefer Facebook. A lot of people have asked for a Discord server, so we're gonna start that soon. Uh, and the only reason I haven't started a Discord server is there's just I get so many notifications every 10 seconds for everything. So I'm just trying to manage that. Then we'll have a Discord server. And we just opened, let me see if I can open this right now. So if you go to support.quadspinner.com, which I'll open here, you will find the community here. So that we have a forums. It's very new, so you're going to start seeing content here over the next few days. And you can even ask us to implement a specific feature, and others can vote on it. And yeah, so you can talk to everyone here.
okay. So let's see. Let's see some of the questions here.
Yes.
Hi Dax, this is Hanhi. Hanhi. Did I say the name correctly?
Yes.
Is there a way to create nodes in the node window like how you do in Substance Designer by pressing spacebar, so without having to select node on the left menu all the time?
Yes, we have it set to tab because some people wanted a tab. I think Nuke uses it, so I think we should add an option so you can change it to spacebar. But yeah, and if you're anywhere in the graph, just press tab and you can search for whatever you want.
That's cool. Uh, so I did not catch this. If it's answered, please ignore it. Can we import custom mesh in Gaia? We did mention this, but you can say it again if you don't mind.
Yes, it's going to be very easy to make a mesh anywhere, import it, turn it into a height field. You can even change the mesh and it'll refresh.
Uh, Tony Tony asks, any plan to create small tree cards that are scattered on the terrain, just as a preview? It could be great for scale reference.
This is something I'm kind of conflicted about because on the one hand, I would love to have additional features that can help, like this. If you get a great scale reference, then it makes your job a bit easier. But it kind of takes us away from developing a terrain software, so to speak. And so I'm still not sure, and that's why one of the reasons I want to encourage the whole open source thing is for certain things that we're maybe not going to do, we can open up our API and others can maybe come in and develop those things.
I know what API is. Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay. Tab, never guess tab. Love your ethos. Yay. Discord, would love to see you on our Our community. That's Cynthia. Okay. Yeah. So, what else can we talk about? Do you have any idea? Uh,
Uh, if we create the I will at some point create a separate plugin for getting crocodiles on the terrains.
that's. I'm sure it's a high demand for crocodiles, especially from where you live. Um, so, yeah, I didn't mention that the Dax should have actually joined us last year at the IFCC, but he didn't in the end because of the Gaia thing.
Yeah,
And this year, just to punish him, we didn't invite him.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm so sad.
no, I assume that you really deep into this thing. So as you
I might still crash the party at some point.
okay, that would be great, of course. But I doubt it. With all the things that you do, I really doubt that you'll be free to go anywhere for the next 2 years. I
I
think.
mean,
Uh,
the next free time I get, I'm just going to sleep.
yeah. Okay. Amen. So yeah, I think we covered a lot. I mean, of course, also, I remember the last stream we had, or the one before that, someone commented this is so underrated video, more people should see it, and of course, you guys can help us with that. So, leave your comments below the video, like the video, share the video. More videos are coming, and we'll talk to Dax again, whenever he will have any new updates, or at least important enough to comment it in front of the audience live. I'm always ready to do it, so Dax will let me know about it. So, let others know about us, because we have almost 100 videos, but only recently we started doing this live streams thing. So, and reason for this is to either promote author or the software developer, and for us it is a good way to promote the event that we're doing every year, and other things that we're doing. So yeah, please share this video, leave comments below the video, help us with rating and that kind of stuff. Dax, thanks so much for joining me
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
today. Yeah, I really hope that we'll have another session soon, or soon enough. So to see, just to follow what's going on with Gaia, and I hope others will join us as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, 1 hour and 13 minutes. I think it's okay. Not too long, not too short. So okay, so another last questions. No,
Yes.
no more answer of this. Is Gaia able to export specular normal roughness maps? So far, I've been able to export the mesh and the color map. I think you can generate those in many softwares, right? If you have
Yeah, but because you're controlling the color map yourself, Gaia wouldn't know what's specular or what's roughness. But you can use selectors and data maps to create your own PBR maps, and we'll definitely do a proper tutorial on that. You can even do wetness and all those things.
Okay, nice talking to you, and we'll be in touch soon. We can stop streaming now.
Should I wait 10
Bye.
seconds and then stop streaming?
No. You can. Let's be in the silence for a while. And thanks everyone for joining us as well. So that was it.